Welcome to a demonstration of what's going to happen in the first lab. Uh, for those who might have to miss it due to COVID reasons or whatever happens. To start, if you haven't read the lab instructions or whatever, I'd recommend reading through those to kind of have an idea of what was expected to be performed in the lab. But there's two pieces of equipment that were used for this lab. The first of which is a tape. Uh, Out at one of the areas of the mine, there were two lines that were painted kind of like this. That were painted kind of like this, spaced out some unknown distance from one another. There were hatch marks every so many feet so that the groups would be spaced out, and the groups were tasked with measuring the distance between the two lines. Now, points were all labeled. As such, and they were assigned to each group. So you have Group A, Group B, Group C, Group D, Group E. Uh, and each group obviously has its own point. To start with the tape, uh, started out with one group member standing here at, if you're Group A, start holding the reel at Group A. The other group member would then take the end of the reel right there and bring it out to A prime. And kind of hold it over the center of that little cross section, that little hatch. Once they're kind of both positioned over the points, they need to apply tension to the kind of hold it up above the ground, so it's not just lying on the ground, because that's not an accurate measurement. Uh, so they would kind of pull on it, not too hard, obviously, not to stretch it, but they'd pull on it so it gets up off the ground, and the person at A would read the measurement from whatever the no, it's approximate measurement, but whatever measurement they got from the reel itself. They then switched who had the reel and who had the other end and redid all the measurements so that both people had a little bit of experience reading the reel itself. Once they got their measurements with the reel, they then switched to taking measurements with the total station. Now, for the total station, uh, the same steps were kind of repeated. So let's say Group B gets through all their tape measuring, and now they're to measuring with the total station. They would first both uh, both group members would probably be put at B prime because they were alternating where they were setting up, so that whenever the two people in the group were setting it up, we didn't have a bunch of people all standing next to each other because of all the school's COVID policies. They'd set up the total station at B prime. They'd set it up, level it, and once that's all good and they know it's level, it's centered over the point, one of the group members would take the prism, which the prism was on top of a pole, and set it up and, well, go over and hold it up over B. There's a little dot level on it. They'd hold it so that it was level and then take a measurement from B prime to B. Once all of the numbers and stuff were recorded in their field notebooks, they would then kind of swap who was doing what. Whoever set up the total station in the first place would kind of take it all down, make sure to kind of wipe everything down with whatever disinfectant means we provide, and put it back in its box. The person who was holding the prism that first time would then go and set up and level and do all that again so that they get the experience doing it. And then they would take the measurement to the prism while the other person who originally set it up takes the prism and holds it over the other point and kind of levels it. That way everybody gets experience doing it. Once that's all done, once again, whoever sets it up, takes it down, disinfects it, does all that fun stuff. That's the extent of the lab, other than writing the required report and all that. If you have any questions about what happened in the lab or any other things that you're confused about, feel free to email any of the TAs, myself, Corey, or Eugene, and then you can also email Tagi.